Hi folks, and welcome to Coffee with the Kensington, where we discuss all things related to seniors, their families, and caregivers. And today's topic is about organizing out with the old and in with the new for 2021. My name is Brenda Moynihan, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach at the Kensington Assisted Living Residence. My guests today are Carol Lightbody and Paula Meehan from certified relocation and transition specialists from the organization Changing Places. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Hi, Brenda. Hi.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for having us.
Good to be here today.
Why don't we first start with tell the audience, our listeners, what you ladies do.
Happy to do that. So Changing Places is a company that assists older folks who've usually lived in their home for many years to go through the process of downsizing in preparation for a move. They could be either moving to an apartment or independent living or assisted living. And we go through everything with them, from figuring out the floor plan of what they'll take to sorting with them room by room, getting them a mover, changing their telephone and post office address, and then getting them settled into their new home. In a nutshell, that's what
all of the things that you can take off of somebody's plate, all of those wonderful things to make life easier, right?
That's right. That's right. Because it's a very stressful time for folks when they're faced with a move. Often because we find when we first started this business, we said, we may end up having people who've lived in their homes for like 35 or 40 years. Well, we've had people in their homes for 50 years, 55 years. So they've accumulated a lifetime's worth of things.
Sure, 55 years worth of stuff and junk, right? That in order to get out.
We try not to use the word junk, but yes, you're right.
So now, Paula, you had mentioned that. How has your business changed now during the pandemic? Because you still have people moving, right? Tell us how it's changed.
Well, in the first few months of the pandemic, nobody was doing anything. People weren't moving. They were too afraid, I guess. But since June, we've been sort of back up to where we had been before. And what's changed, I think, is that people are in their space, their home space, 24/7 now. Mm-hmm. And they're much more aware of their clutter. They're much more aware of their space not being the way they'd like it to be. And I think that people don't realize that when you have a lot of clutter, it causes stress. It causes stress. It takes our attention away from where our focus should be on our daily tasks. It makes it harder to relax physically and mentally. We can't ever get to the bottom of the pile that we're going to do. So that causes anxiety, and we're guilty and embarrassed. So we found that clients are needing decluttering more than ever before.
Right.
Or have a desire to declutter more than ever before.
Right. And you know what? I mean, we're going into 2021 and everyone wants to kind of look ahead, which I agree. And it's not just relocation. Tell me, if someone just wants to get their stuff, would you also be able to assist them with that? In other words, they're not actually moving, but they just really want to assess their stuff and get rid of a lot, sell it and things like that.
Carol, why don't you speak to that?
Well, sure. Yes, what we do is, we'll come in, look around, and get an idea of what needs to be done. And like Paula said, usually they're embarrassed and, feel guilty, like, how did I let this happen? And then we start just in one area. We don't try to tackle the whole house. And it's usually an area that is not used often. So for instance, if they have an attic that's full of their children's high school and grade school memorabilia, as well as their kids, wedding gifts, we'll start there. So it's not in their way, so to speak, during the day. And so I think when we start making progress, people feel so much better, and they know that it can be done. You know, unlike before we came, they just sat in it and it got worse and worse. So, you know, I think for us, you know, we enjoy helping people. It's kind of what our calling in life is, I think. And you know, we started one small area. You know, we've done many linen closets where, you know, people might have 10 sets of sheets for one bed, you know, and so, you know, we kind of empty everything out of that closet, pick a couple of sets of favorite sheets, and then put them back. And it's amazing how much better they feel. So it's come a long way.
Let's talk about the stuff, quote unquote. Are you able to, you know, look at something, you know, somebody saying it could be an antique? Are you dealing with antique dealers, eBay? Like, what are you doing with their stuff? Are you able to sell it?
On occasion, we can sell things. It depends what it is. A lot of the more name brand, Tiffany, Gucci, you know, things like that can be sold online. We have resources that do a lot of online auctioning. So we will connect the client to the online auction company. And but otherwise, we try to either donate or repurpose in some way. We try the last resort is, you know, the landfill. But, you know, even as far as textiles, we recycle textiles. There's a place in White Plains that we bring textiles to. There's medical equipment. You know, some people have excess medical equipment, maybe from a loved one that's passed away. We bring that to a place in Yonkers. There's electrical recycling. So we try to repurpose and go in the right direction to save the earth, basically.
Actually, the biggest change in our business in the last 18 months, I would say, is the ability to work with folks to sell their things online. And we participate in that we facilitate that for them. So someone will come in, a professional auctioneer will come in, photograph everything, put it up online for a week for sale. And then maybe a week later, the folks who have purchased things will come during a 2 or 3 hour window and pick things up. So that there's nobody, it's not like having an estate sale in your house where people are traipsing through. It's really a very clean process and profitable. I mean, things that we didn't used to be able to sell, we're able to sell online because we can sell them in addition to the higher end things they have. So it really has been great.
And it's, again, repurposing. I'm sorry, Paula, go ahead.
Sure.
No, go ahead.
No, again, it's you know, getting the next stage of that you know, dresser, or, and it's not going in the landfill, it's going to someone who might need it. And so that makes us feel really good, and the client too, because they feel pretty attached to their furniture, especially their furniture. And you know, I got it from my mother when I got married, and you know, so it makes them feel better knowing that it's going to someone else to make memories with. So
Right. And are tag sales, are they out because of the pandemic? How do you feel about the whole concept of tag sales? We've
never really done tag sales. They're very labor intensive, and typically tag sale items go for bargain prices. So it's not really a venue that we've ever really explored much.
Okay. And talk a little bit about, I mean, if someone has, you know, Paula, you had mentioned earlier, someone's been in their house for 50 years and now they're either downsizing or moving to an assisted living like the Kensington. What are we talking about a time frame? Let's say a 3-bedroom house, 2.5 bath with a lot of stuff. What's, you know, can you give an average time frame of what it would look like to, you're donating the stuff, you're packing it up. What does that look like?
Well, the ideal situation for us is when we can go in, sort, move the folks, and then do what remains kind of at the end. And that process can be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, I would say. Is that about right, Carol?
yeah, maybe, you know, 6 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, 3 weeks would be if somebody's moving from an apartment and it's a simple job. We've had jobs that We've had jobs that lasted a year, but those were very special situations where,
Okay.
you know, a lot of our work depends on whether folks can actually make decisions. So we always say in the beginning, we spend 2 hours at a time, perhaps because it's kind of stressful work. But if someone can't make a decision about what to do with something, even with our input, everything takes longer.
And I wowould think if you're saying, I mean, do you go through all the items with the person and they're telling you, dump this, keep this? Is that, because that could be so time consuming, right?
It is. And we try, that's why it's almost impossible to do it alone. And people know that. If you've done it yourself, when I try to organize something, you know, you'll see a piece of paper and you'll get looking at it like, oh, I'll read this, and you just don't get anywhere. So we try to keep them on track by moving them along. And it does help them to make decisions to not take things when we remind them that, well, look, you have 10 frying pans here. You know, maybe you only need one.
And you're able to, so you're working with the movers, packing the things up, but on the other end of that, wherever they're going, you're able to assess, you know, this new environment is half the size and you can't really take it. So that when they get to the new environment, you're actually unpacking and all of that?
Unpacking and putting away. And the first thing we do when we first get involved is get the floor plan from the community, enlarge it to scale, take photos and pictures of their furniture, pictures and measurements, and then we plot it on the plan according to what pieces they'd like to take. And then that's kind of a big dose of realism. That's their first dose of, wow, you know, this is a lot smaller.
Right.
So, and then we want to make sure that everything that we're moving, like say they're not taking their dining room hutch, but yet they want to take some glasses or whatever that are in there. We say to them, okay, well, where are we going to put those? We need to know that there's a space to put what is not going into that piece of furniture.
Right. And what, you know, tell the audience about what is your, I don't know, territory? Do you do the tri-state area? Are you focusing on Westchester? What is your area?
We basically focus on Westchester and Fairfield.
Okay.
So, but we belong to a national organization called the National Association of Senior and Specialty Moves. And so we go to an annual conference pre-COVID. And so we get to meet a lot of other move managers in different states. For example, we had somebody moving to Florida recently, and I recommended someone that I met personally and know personally, a Florida move manager. And so they did the unpacking for this person. So we have a wide variety. We have a big network of people. Yeah.
And what can you tell our audience? What's the one thing you want them to remember about what you do and if they need assistance?
One thing I want them to remember, I think I have to say that, first of all, that it's all very doable. It can be done because a lot of times they feel like it can't be done. We just can't do this. As a matter of fact, we've worked with clients who literally went to visit communities and decided not to move because they didn't know how they were going to be able to do it.
Right.
Just seemed
too
impossible.
overwhelming, right?
So it's overwhelming. So the fact that getting help is a good thing. That's the one thing we need to let people know, that, you know, getting help facilitates things and cuts their stress level dramatically. And
if anybody, again, you know, looking ahead to 2021, they really want to start cleaning out their houses and things like that now. Why don't you tell the audience how they can get in touch with you, ladies?
They can go on our website, which is changingplaces.info, or call us at 914-381-1022 and ask for either Carol or Paula, and we'd be happy to set up a time to come visit.
And our first visit is complimentary. We don't charge. We just spend 45 minutes or an hour having a conversation, getting to know them a little bit, looking at their space, and then we write a proposal with what we could do for them.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for joining me today in Coffee with the Kensington. So you're aware, the Kensington website, www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. We will have this podcast, and along with that will be an actual article that actually expands upon this podcast. So I want everybody to have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.